Happy New Year. Hi, this is Dr. Brian David Phillips, and I'd like to wish you a Happy New Year. Live trance and prosper in the coming year, and all years that follow or are previous this incarnation. Seriously though, I really do sincerely wish you the best for the new year. So let's start the new year off in a interesting way. Many of you have heard of the age-old habit or practice of having a New Year's resolution. That's a promise we give ourselves for the coming year. And we often fail at those resolutions because we're human. This year, let me give you a little trance technique that can help you make those resolutions. And you can also play with this process with others. This is a little process that's adapted from, actually it's adapted from Magickal practice, but you're going to find that it works really well with formal hypnosis. Some of you may be familiar with my process of the sigil, which is actually based upon occult sigilization and some NLP driver work. But what we're going to do today is another type of sigil. Rather than the trance process for doing change work, we're going to work on one that's a little more affirmation based. Those of you familiar with the secret will be familiar with the idea of positive visualization and goal realization. Oh, my English are good today. Realizing our goals. And what we're going to do is we're going to play with a little process which some of you may have done in trance work before, but we're going to borrow some concepts from the work of Austin Spare in sigilization, so that you have a way of creating an affirmation that's not simply an affirmation, but it's actually a symbolic representation of unconscious desire that is then realized. And it works like this. Create an affirmation, or rather a statement of desire. Typically we would say things like, I desire, or I want. Make a full sentence of what it is you're after. Now, in the new year, some of you are going to say that I desire to do this, I desire to do that. An example formalization, which I'm not recommending because it's actually a terrible, terrible phrasing, but it's useful for our example terms because I've had a lot of folks in my office and this is exactly what they're thinking about. And that is, I desire the love of a beautiful woman. Now this is not actually my affirmation for the new year because I've already got the love of a beautiful woman. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. Okay, so now if you look at the structure of this sentence, go ahead and look at that. I desire the love of a beautiful woman. Now here's what you do, and this is Austin Spare's technique. There's lots of different ways of doing sigil work. Personally, I prefer automatistic creation of the symbols, but Spare's technique is very common today and it's very useful. I should point out that a sigil is not the affirmation itself, but rather a symbol that we create that holds the energy of the affirmation. And so we're going to create a symbol from this statement, I desire the love of a beautiful woman, la la la, and have whatever rock classic love ballad in your head when you're thinking about that. But see the way the words are structured. And then what we do is you check the letters. You check frequency of letters. And an easy way to do this, those of you who prefer to cheat, or if you're just plain lazy like some people, just type that into your word processor and then use a sort to organize the letters by frequency. And then you eliminate any duplicate letters. So I Desire the Love of a Beautiful Woman has a number of letters that are repeated. And so this becomes this. Okay? And so what we've done here is, you know, there's a bunch of E's in here, so we eliminate a bunch of the extra E's and some of the other letters that are repeated, and we get Idzrethlofwodwin, which is not intended to be pronounced, and that's why it sounds stupid. Now what you do now is you take all the letters in this statement, this desire statement, and you create an image. So I take the letters and I use all of the letters and to create a simple symbol or image using these letters as components. And yes, you can retrace. Now, based upon this becoming this, I can then create different sigils or symbols. And here are some examples created from that original statement. You can see how in the components of the symbol you can see the letters, all the letters that are being used. And there's a lot of retracing here. These are 3 separate sigils, possible sigils, and you might create a number of them and then just choose the one that resonates with you. You're going for simplicity here. Now let me show you those 3 a little closer. So actually here's one. You can see how that's set up. It's got all the letters in the statement done in an artistic manner, and it's pretty easy to remember or visualize. It doesn't have to be this complicated though. We can simplify it even further by making one like this that also uses all those letters. So you can see the T, you can see the other letters, and you can throw in some curves and be a little artistic in how you handle it. And then of course my favorite for this particular statement of change or desire is this one. That's a nice one. For me it feels very alchemistic. So I would probably use this one. So once you've got your symbol created and it's simple, but it has all the energy of all those letters, and if you like, you can Google sigils and you can see some complex ones. I like simple ones because they're easier for the unconscious to work with. Now we're going to use a trance-based process. We're not using a magical spell sigilization. We're doing trance-based sigilization. So this is going to be our symbol for the statement, the original statement. Okay, and then the next step in typical sigilization is to charge the sigil or symbol with the energy. And there's different ways that Austin Spare might say do this. And for instance, have sex. And while you're having sex, have that symbol in your mind. Or if you're having sex with a partner, which I always find enjoyable, well, not always, depends on the partner. But my current partner, awesome. But if you're having sex with a partner, you draw the symbol on the other person's body, and then as you charge that sigil, and I've got plenty of videos teaching you how to do that hypnotically, but if you're just physically coming ahead, so to speak, just at the moment of climax, you look at the sigil. Okay, you don't look into the eyes of the other person, which is kind of rude not to, but this is magic. You look at the sigil itself. But if we're doing it hypnotically, with a trance process, just pop yourself into trance. And if you don't know how to do that, you can look on the SET group or on the boards for some training for basic hypnosis. I've got a wonderful course myself which does offer certification through the Society of Experiential Trance on the core hypnosis skills, or you can just use a CD or audio MP3. A lot of the members and hypnotists associated with the Society of Experiential Trance can help you out. Do a nice little search for someone who can help you there, and they can pop you into trance, and you can learn how to do this stuff yourself and activate your sigils hypnotically and charging them that way. Or if you are a trained hypnotist, just pop yourself in. For me, it's just a matter of a few deep breaths and allowing the energy of, there it is, allowing myself to go into trance. And then what I would do with sigilization is to just allow my unconscious to draw the sigil over and over. And while I'm doing that, my unconscious can allow me to take on the energy of the sigil, of the symbol itself. And that allows me to unconsciously program myself. Now, sigils work this way. You charge the sigil, and then you relinquish it. That is, you let it go. And typically, for sigil work, you want to forget the intent of the symbol. Okay, you just let it go. You're essentially creating a mechanism that's symbolic that becomes embedded in the unconscious, and then you consciously let it go. If you're doing hypnotic work, you can actually suggest amnesia or letting it go, so it runs autonomically, that it runs in the background. It's a TSR program in the mind, a terminate and stay resident. So we let it go, we quit it, but it's still running in the background unconsciously. And so we create the intention, check those letters. From the letters we build a symbol that doesn't have a linguistic connection. It has an emotional charge to it. We charge that unconsciously with energy from ourselves, and then we release it into the universe. So whatever your New Year's resolution is, you can create a symbol that represents that, and then charge that sucker with emotional connections to the unconscious, and then just let it go. You can use trance work to just kind of turbocharge that sucker, so you send it out there. Now, the folks who do the work with The Secret, they know about creative visualization, and they know about intention and outcomes. But this works very differently because you're not obsessing about it all the time. You just basically, you create it and then throw that sucker out there. Now, some people, and Austin Spare suggests that you create a deadline for your suggestion. I prefer not to. I let the universe, I prefer sigils not be so specific, and for me I would break things down even further so that I wouldn't say desire for a beautiful woman. I'd probably say a loving relationship, and then I wouldn't say desire. I'd break down things even further, and then I'd just work with loving relationship and break those letters down. But traditionally, with spare-based sigilization work, we might create a deadline. So I desire the love of a beautiful woman by this summer. Okay, you might do that. Okay, personally, I desire the love of a beautiful woman by right now. Oh, I made it! Ha ha ha! Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm insane. I can't help it. Okay, but that might be something you do. And if you don't get the deadline, and personally, I think most people don't get the deadlines because the deadline inherently sets up an obsession with it, which is the whole point of not doing in sigilization. Sigilization, you don't want to push things into particular outcomes. You want the universe to just to manifest and reveal itself to you. That's what some people do, manifestation work. And I've got a video on my site for that if you like. You might play with that concept just to experiment. Another thing you might consider doing is when you're creating your symbols, use a lot of circles, triangles, and squares to give it that traditional magical look. For instance, this is our I Desire the Love of a Beautiful Woman by this summer sigil that we might use. And this gives it a little bit more poof, a little more Harry Potterification if you prefer. Or if you don't prefer, don't do that. But you might play around with that. Now obviously there's a whole bunch of ways you can play with sigils. Okay, and I've got sigil processes on my website if you want to play with some trance the Phillips sigilization process is definitely completely trance-based. It was inspired by occult work, but it has no occult work at all. This process is inspired by occult work and is specifically playing with techniques from Austin Spare, obviously adapting them to trance work. Okay, and there's other ways we can do it, and I'll probably do some videos related to that, or at least some audio work related to some of those, just to play around with the ideas, because they're essentially, they're affirmations that are manipulated in a way that we create symbols, so we're no longer tied down to the linguistic elements. We can actually get emotionally based reactions and responses to symbols that are then charged subconsciously in a meaningful way for us, so that the unconscious creates a self-fulfilling prophecy of desire, intention, and outcome. Okay, now understand, these symbols, they're not the things that are magical. They're merely vehicles to express our own unconscious desire. And you all know about self-fulfilling prophecies. So make your New Year's resolutions instead of just promises you make yourself, or oaths, I promise, which could be broken, or goals that aren't achieved, but instead make them unconscious driven programs that the unconscious runs with and plays with. And see how that works for you. Create the statement, play with the letters, create your symbol, magicify it, make it nice and pretty, and very simple, because it must be imagined in the mind in the trance work process when we charge the sigil and then we relinquish it. We just let it go and see what happens. Okay, and some of you are aware of manifestation processes for trance that use similar concepts without a written symbol, and there are different ways of doing that as well. But for this New Year's, I wanted to make it a magical year for you, so I thought I'd play a bit with sigilization, just for you, nobody else, not that guy or that girl there, never for him. But definitely for you right there, because you're awesome and you deserve an awesome new year. So make a sigil and make your new year magical. This has been Brian David Phillips. I hope you've had a little fun with this. Now go off and play with it. And play you must. And by play, I mean play. Have some fun, folks. It's a new year. Okay? Okay then. And if you like, you can go to my website and check things out, or go to the Society for Experiential Trance's websites and check that out too. This has been an exclusive video for the Facebook group and for the Hypnothoughts group for the Society of Experiential Trance and the Experiential Hypnosis and Beyond groups. Okay? Alrighty then. This has been Brian David Phillips. That's www.briandavidphillips.net. Check me out. But mostly, just you keep being you. And Happy New Year. Live trance and prosper. Bye-bye.